obviously looking for someone to blame, and everyone's pissed. They're looking for someone to blame. And I already explained it, right? Like the moment you join the COD server, or you use a Google or something that was used to exploit an individual. I'm not even talking about um, even like main history, like 200, 500 years, Columbus arriving. I'm talking about that high school peer who got exploited to produce Google, right? And I mean, bottom line, right? Everything was boiled down to everything would boil down to what a person believes in, right? You could talk and argue and you can all this, but if the person believes something different, they believe in something different. And I mean, we already know that people randomly attack another person because of presupposed beliefs about them, just basically just off what they look like or what they wear. So these things are predetermined. And again, it's easy to take advantage of an individual who's overwhelmed with information and problems, and have no idea what's going on. And it's easy to take advantage of individuals who are good people, quote unquote, good people, quote unquote. Now, granted, the modern world, cars that just sped by, right? It naturally, like a biological natural reaction, is that you're afraid of that. You're supposed to be afraid of those things. You're supposed to be afraid of like beeping and noise and like things like that. Across, you could put the blame on any one person or no one, right? But like the whole thing is, right, like I said before, like it all boils down to again, like I don't run the country, right? I don't run the country. I don't make the rules, but I've said it once and I've said it again that okay, you can hunt down individuals, you have a certain itch about an individual, you have a certain bad taste for them, they said something, they did something, and I already have established, like, I get it, the real world shouldn't have a script, the real world shouldn't have any meaning, right? In an ideal world, there is no meaning to any of these actions, and, there would be no problems, right? There's no problems, so there's nothing matters, right? And nothing matters because it has no purpose, because there's no problems, right? And of course, I'm like playing back, like, to history, I'm playing back to the past, and I would warp the past. I'd delay Columbus's voyage by 100, 200 years if I could help it. But that's not what happened, right? Unfortunately, the history plays out how it did. Now I can't even talk without some car driving by and some text appearing and having to participate and having to deal with all these problems, and because again, maybe the person had an intent to do something bad and they really did, and because again, the world in 2026 can't afford that kind of thing. It can't afford negative intentions and all these things, because it's already happened, right? They already occurred, frustrations, and and if you have a frustration, you just post it online like the way I do, breaking these things down completely, obviously going based off like life experience, being honest on these videos, and going on based off life experience, and telling people that no, because I've been in those positions, and I can see where the system is actually broken, very broken, right? And the thing is, there is no perfect system. Like, everybody knows there's no perfect system, and none of the metrics that we have actually are even worth something. None of the metrics that we have are actually considered reliable. Not considered to be reliable. Not considered to be standard metrics, because when you really think about it, immediately, the person's height, or they could have 4 fingers, they could be born with 4 fingers, we don't know, they could be born as schizophrenic, and so you take these standards and you put them against the individual, and you can make any individual look stupid just because they didn't understand you, and then they could be lonely, right? They spend their whole life alone. But then again, these statements, everything I'm saying, like, sounds like a conclusion, because it is. It's a very, very inconclusive statement that lacks any reason, because if it were the case, right? It's a statement that lacks any conclusion, because it's like, okay, they're saying like, and there's the statement lacks conclusion, because it's like, okay, you know, whatever, so and so, you know, their height is this, and you know, oh yeah, this is the reason the state of their life is like this, and they whatever, so on and so forth. Because I already said it once and I said it again, that you know that the state of their, you know, 1 second. I already said it once and I said it again, that you know, the state of their life, right? You could conclude it that, oh yeah, it's because of this one person or this one thing. Those are all conclusive statements that have no merit. They have no meaning, because you know they're like, they're a sentence with like a period, right? And when in real life, there's just too many variables to even conceive, right? You can't put in any sentence. You can't conclude on anything now, because you just simply don't know, right? They find a new virus, then they find a cure. They tell you this thing causes cancer, and then they tell you the next day that it doesn't. Like you know, cigarettes, they tell you that thing does or doesn't cause cancer, and it doesn't. Obviously, I make some of these videos to cover my butt, to make sure that I'm not the, you know, like, at least if you're getting randomly attacked, you want to know who it is and why, right? And of course, you know, coming up with these responses and having to explain and you know all that, it's obviously not in my favor, right? It's not in anybody's favor to deal with random attacks and you know having to be the target of any such thing. But you know, unfortunately, it's come to that point, and you know, problems are the way they are, and so you know, it is what it is, right? And I'm making sure though that I can't get randomly attacked. I'm making sure that I'm consuming the least amount from the storehouse as possible. You know that I'm consuming the least amount from the storehouse as possible, and that I'm not the one to blame, right? Because I don't want to be the one to blame. I don't want anybody to put the blame on me. I want to make sure that it's going to be some random person, you know, who went on the computer in 2008 or in 1990, in the 1990s, 1980s, 1970s, the 60s, the 50s. I want to make sure it's one of those people, you know. I want to make sure that it's just like saying it's just like saying Columbine was justified, right? It's just like saying Columbine was justified because of overpopulation and white people stealing land and you know history, and then you realize that it might have been, right? And this is why you can't take any of these people or any of these things seriously. You can't take any of this seriously. And other than myself and me talking and what you say, like the historical events you shouldn't be taking seriously, in my opinion. I think that's what the true critical thinking and answer, right? If the evil in the world was not that, you know, there's only one good, you know, knowledge and one evil ignorance. If that's the truth, then that's the truth, right? And you know, just one moment of stupidity, one moment where, you know, you didn't level out. That's all it could take to, you know, end up in a different reality, right? You know, this reality where I have this cane, it didn't have to be like this. It really didn't have to be like this. All it took was, you know, getting randomly attacked a few times and having to deal with, you know, like other bullshit, right? So this is why the videos are being made, right? The videos are being made. This is the only explanation I can provide, you know, before whatever happens, right? You know, before they concatenate some disease and, you know, put the blame on me and whatever, because, you know, you're dealing with, you know, sadistic people. You're dealing with people who are going to try to put the blame on people they've never even met. They're going to try to, you know, because the thing is we already, like, of course you could throw the blame on whoever, and you can make the one-liner conclusions that people make nowadays, like upon anything. They just immediately make a one-sentence conclusion. I mean, and I said it once and I said it again, that the person already knew what to say, when to say it, how to say it before it even happened, right? So my experience of life is even only possible because I forfeited a high quality experience of life. So my life quality is near zero because of the past, right? Because, you know, excuse me. Because of the past, right? Now, whether or not we want to say, you know, every old man is a PDF file because they didn't get married, it's just every old man or any old woman, right? It's pretty interesting that they don't catch women like old women with CP, like old lonely women. It's typically men. But I'm not saying, I don't generalize, I don't judge a book by its cover. It could be a child, right? We don't know. You know, you don't know these things. And it's for this reason these videos are created, because, you have a very, very big problem, and you have very little solutions. And I don't know what to say. I don't know. That you know, you obviously wanted the ignorantly bliss and funny version of life, and what you get is like some, like the guy said, like, you think that you kicked him in the nuts and it was funny, and then next thing you know it, find out that he's gonna lose the testicle, right? So like, this is what it is, right? Again, I know that what you people could do, right? They masturbate into their fucking toilet and whatever, so on and so forth, and then maybe they convolute a person who is ideal, who is, the person who would be the doctor, because everybody can agree, because of populism, that they are, they are a popular person, right? That they they could just talk to everybody and all this, right? And they'll tell you what you want to hear and when to hear it. And I would risk getting into a street fight and fighting people and arguing. I would risk that type of thing if it means that I could prove myself that I'm right, or that I'm just speaking my mind, and okay, so be it. I don't have the IQ to respond and deal with a bunch of people and their issues. I already mentioned before, I don't have multiple arms and legs to fight and communicate and deal with every person and thing, and it's on my duty to, right? And these people, what they're gonna do, they're gonna try to put situations forth to you, like, oh, why didn't you protect that person? Why didn't you save them? Why didn't you help them? They're gonna, as this idea that, there's like I said, this idea where there's this meaning to this, or purpose to this life, when we already know it isn't. And by the way, the Gnostics already predicted this in the text when they said that there would be Yaldabaoth and his archons. What they would do, they would put you in through these tests. They would basically, what they would do, they would put up these tests, and they would do these things to make a person believe that their life has meaning and purpose, right? If your life has meaning and purpose, there's an issue. If you're overly ambitious and you're out here going to Waterloo and you're trying to develop this AI bullshit, we already have enough AI. We already have ChatGPT. We already have Gemini. Why do you need any more AI bullshit, right? It's just this illogical means of thinking that you realize it's so illogical. And it's so stupid, and I still believe that some of these people are innocent. I don't believe that they really belong in prison. I don't believe if the person's motivation to life was to fight and argue, then so be it, right? It's to fight and argue, right? They'll fight and argue over anything, and they make noises to piss you off. That's fine, right? I'm not, like, I don't judge that, right? Like, I get that, like, some of it's a joke, right? Okay, they make a noise to get your attention and they piss you off. It's fun and games, right? And of course, people might ask, like, okay, what's your why, right? What's the reason why you do these things? You say these things on this phone, right? It's to really elevate and get people aware, right? I mean, like, again, video being made too late. It's a day too late. It's too late, right? It's too late to be making these videos. I was called annoying in elementary school, and that was my clear sign, right? I wouldn't have said anything at all, right? I wouldn't have said anything at all, and I wouldn't have said anything at all. Because we could fight over a stupid thing. We could go fight over that pylon, right? We'll fight over anything, right? Because I know people like to fight. That's just as simple as that. People like to fight over stupid little shit, and they will. And I don't fucking care that I say it like that. And I know that lyric from that song that was like, fuck humans, my own breed, long neck, long dick is all I need, right? It's because it's true, right? And I stick to what I believe in and what I say, because yeah, I can travel to the world and see these things and all that, but ultimately, like, oh shit, there's a lot of ants, but ultimately, you could travel the world, you could do all these things, but you need to stay in your own home country in the year 2026. I haven't traveled outside of the country, and I'm never going to re-travel outside the country, because the circumstances are so serious that you need to stay in your home country. Deal with the conflict that was meant for you to deal with, and call it a day, right? You call it a day, you deal with the conflict right up front. This world, again, has a lot of trickery, right? There's a lot of things that they call a dunya is gonna trick you with, that's gonna entice you to continue living and to continue, to continue going forward with this dunya, right? When the reality is actually quite the opposite. When you realize that the dunya, these computer games and like the computer games and the video games and so forth, you realize that like that they are what they are, that they that the computer games are wrong, right? The computer games are wrong. They're like they want you addicted to something because they want you to be in this realm, living in this way, not living in accordance to nature, right? You see me walking, you see me making these videos where I walk and I talk. I don't have a car. I never intend to own a car. And I think we should go back to the way that things were, right? That's what I think, right? I think we've gone too far. We need to go back to the way things were. There's obviously going to be someone who's going to disagree with that. And I seen it. I seen the guy, he had Stone Age, it was called Stone Age, whatever, right? The thing is like, so be it, right? If this is how we communicate, right? We little noises and whatever, right? It's fine, right? I don't hold judgment against that. Like, these things shouldn't matter, right? They don't matter in the grand scheme of the history and the universe. No, they don't. And the day I went on the computer and you use the computer to cope with life, that's programming your mind for weakness. You can program your mind, right? You can program your mind. You don't even need to hire a life coach for that kind of thing. I'm not a life coach, and I'm probably doing a hell of a better job than many life coaches. And I'm just being honest on these like videos. Here, I'm gonna try to. I need to somehow cut through this neighborhood and then get through around. Is it on Sullivan? I don't really know. No, but like any and every couple disagreeing over some bullshit, if they even should exist, if they're even in the right reality, right? Because you look at these people and you question, like you don't even know if they're in the right reality, and it seems like they're living ahead, or they somehow escaped the matrix, or there's something they did. I can't speak on those kinds of things, right? And they mock us with these movies. Maybe it is them mocking us, right? It's just like there's these people who think they know more than us, right? They know more than the average person, or they think that the average person in their IQ is below average or something. Like it's obscene, it's absurd, because these videos are my final message, right? I'm humanly doing this, right? This isn't a machine talking yet, right? The machines haven't taken over yet. This is a human being communicating this message, and everybody knows, everybody fucking sees and knows. Whether you watch the movie Ants or the Ant Bully or all these things, or you believe, that they are, reptilian humanoids that are, the ones dealing the thing. It's all up to your belief, right? And I mean, because you have to be honest to have these conversations. You have to be 100% honest with yourself and being like, okay, we are responsible for our own life and its demise and climate change, and hold up, I don't know if I'm moving the right way, but no, we're responsible for our own lives and climate change and okay, like you can indirectly communicate with someone, like you can make a noise, you could talk, you could like you can indirectly communicate with someone just by making a noise or using symbols, which is what words are really, like scripted writing. And I already talked about how English is a demonic language, that that you shouldn't be even using that language, right? It's a terrible language to begin with. And you shouldn't be saying anything, right? We'll let people figure it out themselves. If they're so smart, they'll figure it out themselves, right? And that's the approach that I have, and it's the only approach that you should have, right? Because the average person is just, they're like, a lot of them, they're not thinking, right? They're not thinking, and you see this, you know this, and there is a group of individuals. I'm not gonna put in names, but the ones who are following the Mustache Man, right? And we all know why World War II started. Unfortunately, we all know why these things occurred, and we all know that that the mustache man was responsible, right? And the painter that didn't end up going to the art school, right? We all know what happened after, right? These are all mistakes that are very, very simple, very common sense, that had you avoided, you could have avoided a whole bunch of tragedy and trauma within Canada, right? And I'm sure there's one way or another, people helping people, a bunch of people, backing up some individual. By all means, you can back them up, but you won't, if you don't back me up, okay, you don't back me up, right? Not on the same side, um, and that's real life, right? And I promise this much, that I'll make sure of it, that I'll make sure of it that you even convoluting or attempting to produce an intention to murder me, put me in a humiliating position, and any of these things is going to be the biggest regret you'll ever have. And you don't have to watch these videos, you don't have to listen to what I say, but I'll make sure of it, that those people that will try to do that to me will not succeed, right? They will not succeed. And like those people who want to do those people who want to do that, they will not succeed, right? And like, because I'm authentic, right? Like, I get it. Like, I truly believe there are machines living amongst us that are pretending to be humans, or that there are like there are people who are cyborgs, or some kind of like NPCs. These are real things. This is no longer science fiction, that these people already live amongst us. The world apparently ended in 1988, right? So 2026 is like, that's like you're going in overtime. Like, okay, you can go for overtime, like, because the message I really wanted to like hone down was in Bioshock Infinite. When there was like, just like in the Bayside Miami Mall, there was the guy and his daughter, right? And if you know the whole storyline of Bioshock Infinite, he kidnaps his daughter from the future. He comes into the past to kidnap his daughter from the future, and he does this because there's like some kind of like there's some kind of wormhole, and there's this like debt you have to pay. And this is what the reality of the modern, like, the world is, right? The message of the game was far deeper than people realize. Here, I'm gonna cut through here. I just want to make sure no one hears me.